kina semdol ka ke mo fa seda.
Good morning, and welcome to Talking in Stations. This is a talk show about EVE Online and life in New Eden. I'm your host, Carneros. Matterall is away, and joining me is my co-host, Elise Randolph.
Hey, how's it going? Happy to be here.
Thank you very much. Today, we're going to start out with a news segment, and then we're going to talk about our main feature today, which is life in the wild, wild west of Tribute and Vale of the Silent. And with me, we have a few guests from that area. In fact, before we get into the news segment, I'd like to introduce our guests to you so you can see who you're looking at on the screen and who you're listening to on the podcast. Let's start with the guys who are visible on screen to you. We'll start with Lord Servant. Introduce yourself for us.
Hey, I'm Lord Servant, long time EVE player, and I'm here representing Forsaken Empire.
Nice. Troy.
Hey, I'm Troyd. I'm also a long-time EVE player. I've recently come back to the game after a few years break, and now I'm in the Wild West.
And you represent a Reverberation project.
I represent a Reverberation project.
Thank you. And then off camera, but part of the show, we have, let's start with 3 tiers.
Hey guys, representing Unspoken Alliance, been with them for nearly 3 years, coming from Great Wildlands originally and moving around, and now we're up in Tribute.
Wonderful. Thank you and welcome to the show. Kendarr.
Hey guys, I'm representing my alliance Trigger Happy, and I've been with them since its foundation 3 months ago, and we're currently living.
Thank you all. Appreciate having all of you here. Feel free to jump in as we talk about the news segments on the show as well here. We wanted to start a little bit with the Pearl Abyss investors call. Yeah, I know it sounds like we're one of those Wall Street talk shows on a Sunday, but no, we're not actually. This is a New Eden. It's a new Eden investment show. It's me and Elise going to tell you how to waste all your money. Just kidding. Nosy Gamer did a fantastic job attending once again the Pearl Abyss investors call and writing up some of the notes for it. If you have not seen his blog, it's super helpful and has more information about what we're talking about. The Pearl Abyss are the parent company of CCP Games, who makes EVE Online, my favorite game. And the most recent call was actually 2 days ago, Friday morning, as we record this show. They talked about Q2 results. Pearl Abyss is doing well. Profits are up. Operating profits up. Net profits up. Things are looking good for them. If our favorite company, CCP, needs to tap into some deep pockets, at least that's present for them. Right now, they shouldn't need to, but one never knows. I've worked in the games industry, so I know what layoffs are like, and I always pay attention to funding. Elise, did any of the stuff in this jump out for you?
I guess I was just most impressed that EVE did really well. Well, not really well, but EVE actually grew and turned more of a profit. I thought that was quite impressive. And then I actually just looked at how much money Pearl Abyss is making on Black Desert Online, and it's quite impressive.
Yeah, don't let that. Don't feel like we need to compare ourselves to every other game, because there are games out there that make a lot more money than EVE. Few of them are as old as EVE and still make money, but yeah, you can't compare yourself to them. Did any of the rest of our guests happen to see this by any chance?
So for me, when I was reading through this, I liked I guess I'm always curious of what they're doing with their spinoffs and how the whole Imperial Abyss acquisition is going to invest and promote those things, right? And I noticed there's some mentions here about like Aether Wars and Eve Echoes. So those particular mentions there and how they're going to push them forward and expand the universe as part of the Pearl Abyss portfolio caught my interest. And to me, that's a positive sign. It means that they're interested in the long-term growth of the brand. And even if that means Eve has some troubles, that means they'd be willing to invest in Eve because of the long-term growth, right? That's my opinion.
I wouldn't read too much into it, though, because this company reports by intellectual property in groups. So first, they talked about their BDO properties, Black Desert Online. But then they talked about their Eve Online properties, and they put them all into a group. Well, right now, that's mostly revenue from Eve Online. Right. But they're always going to, in each category, they're going to look for what's a positive thing or two that we can say about this category as we're talking to the investors to hype up our momentum and just to, make us look like what you're seeing now is not all of the investment you're ever going to see from us. We have more coming in this area. Yeah. It's a growth area. So they mentioned Eve Echoes, and then they mentioned the Aether Wars experiments. If that works, I mean, you can rest assured that Pearl Abyss management has their eye on the Aether War tests, and if this works out really well, they're going to use it for anything applicable. If it doesn't, they'll go on to the next thing. Well, the technology, yes, they would apply it to more than just Eve. If it worked.
Yeah, absolutely right.
CCP's had their eye on different technologies of this sort and has, interviewed, checked out several of them. Right now, Hadean's stuff looks the most promising to them, and they're going forward and lending them support on testing stuff, giving them art assets, technical help, helping drive folks to participate. One of the things that we got the second round of tests coming up here. And one of the things that CCP did to support this better than the first round is offer people free skins for participating.
Yeah, I think that was one of the big things that kind of kept... It was, I think maybe Doom Chinchilla was the main voice behind it the first time, where it was, hey, if I help you do this, how come I'm not getting anything out of it? So I guess his voice was loud enough from Beyond the Grave, and so now we get some cool skins to show.
I wouldn't be surprised if they heard it from 10 different loud voices. Actually,
do we know when the next test is?
Oh yeah, it's coming up soon,
isn't it? Yeah,
I don't have that date handy, but the concept is you sign up on the website now, give them your email address. The morning of the test, they'll send you information for here's where you go, here's where you download the client, and they'll get you going. It worked last time.
It's actually next Sunday. It's the 18th of August, so exactly a week from today.
There you go.
Woo-hoo. All right. So yeah, another thing that happened this week is we got patch notes early for next Tuesday's patch. So Tuesday, the 13th of August, there will be a patch in EVE Online, and they released the patch notes already. That is a sure sign that people are coming back from summer holidays in Reykjavik, because that if you saw the last few times they put out a patch in EVE, they just stuck some patch notes a couple days late to the end of the June page, the June patch release page, and they just kept adding some July ones to the bottom of it. Yeah, this time they did a full normal release thing, and they're on top of it in advance. So this is great. I basically expect everyone to be back at their desk in Reykjavik some point this coming week. And if you look at the patch notes, there was one little thing that caught my eye in it, and that was Triglavian recon vessels spotted outside of invasion zones. And this, was meant to, be noticed and sort of lead the storyline a little bit, that here's a lore hint, stuff is coming.
Yeah, they gave it it's like its very own line. Just I think it's under like missions or NPCs or something like that, and just a lone bullet point like just these Triglavian recon ships have been spotted. Just letting you know that they've been spotted.
So subtle.
Yeah.
Do we care to speculate, or?
I would say you can speculate on the Tiamat and Hydro market going down, as there's more cloaky Triglavian ships. But they're already pretty cheap.
My
Cobalt,
speculation
Triglavian?
is stuff's coming.
Yeah, it's either new ships are coming, or maybe, which is I think the direction where everyone's going. They're like, oh, they just see recon, and they're like, oh, we're gonna get a recon Triglavian ship. But it could just be that the Triglavians are up to some nasty business, and they're gonna do some wonky stuff. Maybe this is our like sprinkling of chaos for this month.
It could be the what are those, the Lancers or whatever, the sleeper version that scan everything. Wonder if we'll get sleeper versus Triglavian ones. There's that article CCP had a couple weeks ago, I think, about how there was an NPC massive fight. Might see more sleeper versus Triglavian action, like the recon scouting parties escalating.
Yeah, so like you'd be like flying through space, and you might see them like scouting each other, and then they start to escalate on each other, and just a full blown NPC battle starts happening.
Yeah,
I definitely viewed it more like the Triglavians are going to attack different folks in different places, rather than, oh, we're going to get a recon ship. That was my first reaction. 3 tiers. What do you think, bro?
I think that they could have worded it better, but I think they did that on purpose to get the speculation going. But if we get recon ships, it'd be great, and I think they might be a little overpowered. But anything to throw another wrench into the game right now is good by me.
An era of chaos.
Exactly.
Not enough wrenches. Kendarr.
Well, I pretty much agree with the Chaos Theory, really. I do think that, so with the Triglavian Wars only happening in high-sec, right? Like incursions.
Yeah.
So we're seeing recon ships in further high-sec systems around. At the minute, is it isolated to one system they take over, or is it more? I'm not familiar with PvE in the game, so maybe it's that they're going to expand the invasion. Maybe there'll be 2 systems invaded at once instead of 1.
Or maybe they're going to do an invasion and then some other like crazy stuff that's not even part of that.
Yeah.
it could be a change in venue, because I think so far my understanding is the Triglavian stuff is only in high sec, so maybe they're expanding to low sec and null sec.
Yeah, it would be really nice if they spawned right on top of Snuff. Just kidding.
So if they do go into low sec, high sec, perhaps that's an avenue for getting Triglavian capitals. And this is long-term speculation, but high sec stuff is just your conventional ships, and then as you move out to low sec, null sec sites, you get bigger, better battles.
I shouldn't be saying mean things on the show. That's not our style here at Talking in Stations.
I have a feeling maybe they're just like sprinkling this random nebulous thing, and they're just going to collate all the ideas that the players kind of theorize, and then they'll just pick the best ones. Maybe that's how they're going to. Probably not, but maybe.
Something else that caught my eye from those patch notes was the fact that they're renaming the slave implants to amulet implants, which probably, might mean we're going to get shield slaves eventually. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, they talked about it a few times, actually. They've had like 18 dev blogs, I feel like, on the new or on pirate implants and how they're going to do it. But so slaves in particular, I know they said that they're going to move from Sancha Loyalty Store, which is where they are now, eventually over to the Blood Raiders, because just thematically that makes way more sense. And this is in preparation for that, right? So slaves, Sancha, amulets are Blood Raider. But I don't know. It just shield slaves would just be super broken in the state they are now.
Yeah,
I know a lot of alliances moved over to shield supers in preparation of of doing this, and it's been literally a meme for at least 6 years. I think I remember 4 fan fests ago they made it was like on the keynote they were talking about doing it, and and here we are.
Yeah, I'd be really concerned from a balancing standpoint. Balancing shield slaves is going to be a nightmare, literally, for nightmares. You have nightmares, you have rattlesnakes, you have eagles, and of course the big shield super problem. Like, how do you rebalance those to make them effective ships while not making them overpowered? Like, shield slave rattlesnakes are like, could be ridiculous, and nightmares are already super effective, as we've seen in nullsec. So what do you do when you start having all those kind of coalesce into it's crazy. Plus, you have, the fundamental reps, shield reps come up first. Armor reps are backloaded. That's a huge, massive balancing problem with, the meta and nullsec. Like alphas, kings, you want to have your reps front loaded. It pushes everything more towards why even bother running armor.
Man, imagine rattlesnakes came back. Just swarm of really durable sentry drones and cruise missiles, and just like what 800,000 EHP of rattlesnake shields.
Yeah, it would be pretty insane. But the problem with rattlesnakes, obviously, is citadel bombs just annihilate sentries. So you've got to watch out for that.
True.
Having shield slaved eagles with the ADC would be a kind of a big problem, I think, in larger fleets where the eagles are often seen.
You can make the slaves, like the shield slaves, like just really hard to get. That might be an approach.
How do you do that, though? Because, traditionally, I'm not sure if anyone else here has run pirate missions, but back in like 2010 or 11, when NC was invading the old NC, I ran Garistas missions as my primary source of income. And you could crank out a crystal set super easy with unprovable Tengus at the time. So whatever they come up, their slaves are Sancha. So amulets are Sancha, or amulets are Blood Raider? Or
Amulets would be amulets right now would be slaves right now are going to be called amulets soon, and amulets are Blood Raiders. But the shield slaves would be Garistas.
Yeah, so then you'd have people, right in our backyard, we're Tribute and Vale people, running in Venal. You're going to get, those going to be very, very, very easy to crank out, because Venal's traditionally been a very, very big hotspot for mission runners. Black Legion based their alliance around it years ago. They had the Crystal Army, was called the Crystal Army, the Dreads, because of the crystal implants they could crank out. There's a lot of level 4 agents and good pockets there.
Yeah, but that kind of assumes that it would be obtainable under the same regime that they are currently, right? So not to say that it's a good idea and it would be awful balanced, just thinking of a different method that you could deal with that.
And how many nullsec alliances as well, or how many alliances full stop, truly utilize these type of implants? I know Snuffed, they're a big advocate, obviously, of slaves at the moment. But like, how many other alliances out there in nullsec go the route of slaves and so on?
My alliance definitely would. We are very big on stuff like that.
For smaller alliances like ours, yeah, I can understand that. But the bigger sort of block, no,
Yeah,
I don't
like
really
soft
see.
ones.
Yeah, I don't see that really, them bringing them in. But
the good news is it's still way on the horizon, right? They're just making the naming change to an implant set that's been in for like 15 years. So I think we've got some time to see how the shield slaves will play out.
But it's fun to speculate.
Oh yeah.
It is always fun to theorycraft exactly how broken something's going to be, and then just get really excited. It's weird. That's kind of like something that EVE players do way more than any other game that I've played, right? So when if I play a different game, like if I was playing Dota or Dota Underlords or anything like that, whenever something broken comes out, people complain about it. At EVE, whenever something broken comes out, like people have prepared for it and know exactly what they're going to do with it beforehand. So it's...
The amount of
Good
time I've
job.
spent in like PIFA or EFT, just like theory crafting new doctrines or setups and stuff like to me, it's one of the distinguishing features of this game. Like, I agree.
Definitely.
But none of you chose Tribute and Vale as your home because you knew shield slaves were coming and you wanted to be close to the Guristas or Serpentis.
Or did we?
That's what you think.
So, yeah, just tinfoil hatting for a second.
We found out our secret.
Yep. Another new thing in the patch notes are the community fittings. How many of y'all remember Battle Clinic and the fits they used to have on Battle Clinic?
Yeah, I do.
Absolutely.
That's what I think of when they say community fittings. I expect them to be a bunch of Battle Clinic fittings, basically, but updated for today, and then quickly getting outdated from there.
And then getting downvoted or upvoted.
And trolled.
Yes.
See, I thought I was thinking maybe people would spend a lot of time trolling it, but I actually don't know the exact mechanics of it. Can you give it like a certain name? So could you be like Karma Fleet's Kestrel or Suetonius Kestrel and Horde's Kestrel? Because if that's the case, then people will definitely start using it, especially new player groups, as a player recruitment tool, right? So you're not going to want to give people bad fits. You're going to say, hey, ours is the best. If you want more, come join our group and we'll tell you more good fits. But I don't know exactly how the community fitting is working. If you can name it, hopefully EVE Online players will take it in that direction.
From the notes here, from the notes here, it just kind of says that it's going to be curated fits. So you throw your suggestions in, and then like the ISD people or notable members of the community, such as yourself, would like say, yeah, it's a good fit. Everyone should have access to that sort of thing, right?
Oh man, if they let me do it, then this whole system's gone to shit.
Apparently, it's up and running on Singularity test server. If you're free to go look at that, I have not done yet.
Yeah, I hope these volunteers of ISD are competent. You never know with some of those things. You see some really weird, out there fits that I'm sure people have seen. Like, I don't even know. Can't think of the recent example offhand, but the old Phoenix they used to do years ago. If people saw that fit, they'd be like, "What the fuck is this?" And pardon my language, what's around here?
That's okay. It's all right. Go easy.
But but it's like out there fits might be the ISD's like, "Oh, this is terrible," but like you're like, "Oh, this is a specific thing." For example, when Entosis first came out, people had 500 MN, I think, rapiers orbiting, and if you look at that fit, you're like, "This is garbage," but it was the technically best meta fit for Entosising at the time. So, the ISD that plugged into the game, I know they're volunteers and I think they can play, but I'm not sure what what their experience is with that.
Yeah, they're the ones I've met are super active and they've been ISD for many years, and they are I'd say more than competent when it comes to this. But also the scope of the fits is something that it's essentially for people just starting out, people that are going to do primarily PvE interactions, I'd say. Because right now, when you start the tutorial, they give you a whole bunch of stuff, and the fits are like completely garbage. You have no idea how you're supposed to fit it. There's no guide, right? There's no one saying, "Hey, here's like quickly what you're supposed to do." I remember for the longest time when I first played EVE, I fit a heatsink on my thorax because it sounded cooler to me, and the description sounded cooler than magnetic field stabilizer. I had no idea that the heatsink did literally nothing on my ship. But I was like, oh, I've got these two modules. One's called a magnetic field stabilizer. One's called a heatsink. Heatsink sounds like it does its job way better. So I think it's going to be more for idiots like me starting out, where you can kind of, in your first day of playing, get a setup that can actually be effective and doesn't just die to NPCs or take like 5 years to kill an NPC.
If you look at the community thread on it, all like the scope, it's all just like Tech 1 frigates, mining, industrials, all those sorts of things. So I think you're hitting the nail on the head there.
You were doing better than me. I was just handing my hulls to my friend and saying, "Fit this for me," and it would come back magically fit, and then I would fly behind him. while we did level 3 missions in HiSec. And then he ditched me and joined Nelly Secunda. But anyway, not that I'm bitter. Okay. Anything else on the patch notes that you saw?
I did notice that they had some a few like very nebulous gameplay changes that I wasn't quite sure of exactly. I know, so there's one that says here, let me find it. Updated Meta 1 shield resistance amplifier CPU usage. So I was like, oh geez, are they like tweaking this huge, or are they making this like a massive change or something? And no, they're changing it by like 1 or 2 to keep it in line with all the other Meta ones.
Really?
But they didn't like mention it, right? So right now apparently the meta level ones, the CPU usage is 21, 22, 23, 24. So they're just like tweaking a little bit for them to be like 1 or 2 off. So it's nothing major.
Well, that actually really breaks specific. I didn't know about this. Should have read the patch notes. I read them, missed that. That breaks a really good Bifrost fit I have, actually.
I mean, they all go down. They all go to 20 instead of like 21. So before it was 21, 22, 23, 24. Now they're all 20.
I was worried for a few seconds. I thought it was going up. Like a damn second.
But usually they would tell you like what that's kind of what I expect usually with a patch note when before, because they'd like kind of tell you what it used to be and then what it's going to now. So I kind of miss that. And the next one, and I think I've flown a Zarmaz like twice because I just had built it when they first came out and I thought it looked cool. But one of the things is added warp capacitor need to the Zarmaz and Rodiva. I'm not sure exactly what that's for. I assume that's for cap chaining type usages, or maybe they just broke something beforehand.
Our alliance uses Zarmaz quite often, and we don't cap chain them or anything. If I'm not mistaken, it uses a cap booster or cap battery. I'm not a huge Logi pilot.
Oh, it's a warp capacitor need. Okay, so I guess when you initiate warp with them, they don't use capacitor. Is that how it works now? And so they're going to actually add that back.
I was going to say, isn't there some system? I think it's in Tribute that's like 300 AU across, or maybe it's Vino I'm thinking of.
It's Vino. The Vino's the one.
Yeah, darn.
Right next to Agent.
Zarmaz meta there would have been great.
So all those Zarmaz and Rodiva pilots that have been like living life, warping without needing capacitor, you're going to get in there. Just getting a very minor thing, just something that they probably forgot.
Here's another news item this week. This one's kind of a favorite with me. Andrew Groen, the author of History of the Empires of Eve, he has come back and given us his Kickstarter supporters an update on Volume 2. As you know, he's working on a follow-up volume. I'm excited about it. Loved the first one. Read it a couple times. Gave away codes for Amazon to get the book to all my Secret Santa gifts for the last 2 years. Love this. He let us know that a couple things are coming up. One is he's going to be speaking at G Fleet September 1st in Berlin. He's going to be speaking at PAX West September 13th and 14th in Seattle. I don't know exactly what he's presenting yet, but he's gotten to a point on Volume 2 where he now knows the beginning and the end and the scope of what he's talking about and is going through writing it. I think he's done most of his research. I'm excited to hear what's covered. He gets far enough into the future or far enough forward, recent enough in history. How do I say this? To include something I was involved in. So I'm excited about that. So anyway, can't wait to read about it.
Yeah, it is really exciting. And I can say I've spoken with him a little bit while he was doing some research stages. And he definitely has a very strong understanding of what actually happened, not just what people say happened type things. And for people who aren't familiar with it, the scope is going to be where Volume 1 left off, which is right after Delve 2. and it's going to, from this update, it's going to go all the way up to World War B. So it's going to cover that huge group of or that huge amount of time, and there's a lot of stuff that's happened in there. So obviously the early things are going to focus on how Goon Swarm kind of comes together and forms the CFC, and then later the Imperium, how the old Northern Coalition kind of fails and flounders, and how people react to that, the surgence of DRF and how it becomes a huge coalition and then kind of peters out overnight. So it should be really interesting. And for the work that he did in Volume 1, I have like a lot of faith in how good Volume 2 is going to be.
Having played extensively during that time frame you mentioned, I'm actually excited to read that now.
Yeah, same. Like the for a lot of it, it's what I consider like Eve's golden age. At least for me, it felt like my golden age, because that's where I kind of picked up Eve Online and got involved in a big way. So I'm super excited to see his interpretation of it.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be great. I think if you look at player numbers, that actually factually was Eve's golden age. He had a little resurgence, I think, in 13 or 14, where it was back to there. But it'll be interesting. I hope they cover it fairly.
Well, he's I know he's spoken to quite a few people just to kind of make sure he gets all sides covered equally. And the way he handled Volume 1, it was very much devoid of any spin or narrative. So I have a feeling he knows how Eve players are, and he knows the spin that some people naturally put on, even unintentionally. Like sometimes I myself have a narrative spin that I don't intend to happen. So he's good at navigating those waters and picking out the actual information that's interesting, and then telling a story about it, which is the hardest part to do.
Okay. I'm sure you remember the death to all supers while they rammed the highest sig possible subcap fleets into Tracking Titans over and over and over again. I hope that's the lesson there isn't Tracking Titans were OP, because they were, but there were things very near and dear to my heart.
I remember those Tracking Titans while taking Tenal as part of Razor.
Oh, those things are fucking great. But a little overpowered, and then CCP went and completely didn't get the point the second time around, despite, I think you were there, Elise, all of us in the Capital Balancing Group telling them again, you're doing it wrong again, blah, blah, blah.
I was on the CSM when they basically broke Titan Turret. And I remember like a very specific post I made saying, hey, this is just going to make it so these ships don't do anything. Is this your intention? And they're like, yep, this is actually our intention. So
yeah. Well, they had a whole bunch. I think the first nerf or something, they're like, oh, you can't remote SIBO them and remote tracking computer them, moving the drum bays, and that'll fix everything. And we're just like, do you even play this game? What are you doing? It was just, they had a couple iterations. I think one, they wanted to nerf the scan res to like 5 MS or something. So we were saying we'll just stagger a lot. It was just, the whole way they balanced that and then just nerfed them into being glorified taxis for years was completely done wrong. And then, of course, the rebalance was done wrong again with the Vorkels, of course. But I guess that's a different topic, which I'd love to talk about. But
speaking of different topics, I want to turn our attention to Tribute and Vale of the Silent. We might have one guest who has to leave a little bit early, so I want to make sure we get into our main subject if we can. I'd like to start, if we can, by setting some context for people a little bit. There had been a big war going up there in the north, or a war of some sort. We'll call it big because there were a lot of ships involved. The Imperium rolled, and in full disclosure, I play with the Imperium. The Imperium rolled forward up from Delve and Fountain, came up through Cloud Ring to Tribute, to Pureblind, and attacked into Tribute and Vale, and kind of cleaned out most of the structures that belong to NC Dot and Pandemic Legion family, mostly unopposed, but at one point towards the end of the cycle, when ironically, a lot of people were fairly bored with the gameplay at that point because it was a lot of cleanup to do. A sudden, unexpected thing happened in the form of NPC drifters. And various groups stopped what they were doing, turned around, and booked it back to their home territories to defend their structures from this unknown onslaught. Is that a fair description?
Yeah, pretty much.
Surprise.
I lost all my stations. Feels bad, man. But yeah, the Imperium, as soon as they had more or less glassed, as they say, the entire region, when the drifters came, they kind of said, "Hey, we gotta see what this is gonna turn to." I have a feeling that even if the drifters hadn't done that, they probably would have done something very similar. Just because, I mean, I know how tedious it can be to grind a region largely unopposed, but it wasn't completely unopposed, so you had to still go through the motions every single fleet, because if you half-ass it or if you just don't do it right, you can be punished.
And we were
So
being watched at all times.
yeah, you're always like, you have to do it right every time, which is so frustrating. You can't just send people out to do it willy-nilly.
But you don't want to trade your home systems for that either.
Exactly.
To NPCs. So yeah. Anyway, so there's this sudden vacuum that happened in Tribute and Vale as the folks pulled out, because as far as I could see, the PanFam NC Dot folks were not waiting to come back inside. They had come up with a whole nother plan and were headed in a different direction and were setting up somewhere else, leaving these two regions kind of empty. So that's the context. What happened next? First, let's go around the group, and I'm going to ask you each to tell us a little bit about your organization. And let's start with 3 tiers. Can you tell us a little bit about Unspoken Alliance?
Sure. Unspoken Alliance was originally born in Great Wildlands about 3 years ago, and moving up from there, we like to say we accidentally took Sovereign Ethereum Reach, and from there we started evicting all the smaller groups and try to attack the larger groups in there. Eventually, it became to where we basically accidentally held Ethereum Reach as a region, and we got extremely lucky, I would like to say. And I don't think that kind of thing will ever happen again, to where we hold an entire region with such a small group that we are. From there, we started hitting, Brothers of Tangra and other renting groups. Unfortunately, we had back at the time had to blue a few people we didn't really want to blue, just for, as some people would say, existential crisis. But from there, we pissed a few people off. We got booted from our space after a long, grueling time, and ended up in cash, and then trying to figure out what we want to do. Saw the power vacuum in Tribute, and came here, especially with the blackout. And at this point, it's been a lot of fun. So, yeah.
Kendarr, tell us about Trigger Happy.
So after the Northern War, which I wasn't part of, the last Northern War, which I wasn't part of, I'd left the Imperium by that point. We could see that, basically, no offense to PanFam, but basically they threw the cards on the table and said, look, we're not going to fight. This is just ridiculous. Like, you're far too powerful. And they left. They did obviously fight, but you know what I mean? Like, they weren't going to fight hard for it. And it kind of like told me that the time was now, really, that if he was ever going to try and form an alliance and do one, now would be the time. So a couple of us got together. Basically, we formed what we call a PvP alliance. We started living in Pureblind because we're EUTZ based. We were basically looking at fighting Banders and French Connection, which for us were huge alliances at the time. And then obviously the space in Tribute became 3, basically. So we took a system in Tribute, and we took a pocket in Tribute, all in range of basically French Connection and Banders, so we can continue to fight them in the EUTZ. And that's pretty much brings us up to now where we are. Just got despondent with the state of the game that's saying trying to change it, but we'll see.
Troyd.
Hello. So the origin of us.
Well, tell him. Actually, you can say a couple words about Repercussus, but more about Reverberation Project.
Let's go with Reverberation Project. So Reverberation Project has existed in a few forms over the past 8 or so years. The current incarnation is a resurgence of pilots from Repercussus who haven't been playing the game for about 3 years or so, since World War B, more or less. And we saw an opportunity in Tribute to come and take some space and carve out our own little chunk here and indulge in our preferred gameplay. And a lot of that has been triggered by, I would say, the nullsec blackout. We've been throwing out some Panther fleets every week, just going out there, signing in, blapping some stuff and leaving. If that stuff wasn't possible before, because you'd be seen in local, right? You'd have this recon ship or someone, and everyone would just hide, right? But now you can actually roam with your blop ships, your Black Ops fleets stuff. So that was really appealing to us, and we hooked up with some of our friends, such as Lazy Eagle or Talon. They had started accidentally taking some off, so to speak, in Vale. And it was a great opportunity, and we've kind of just taken it by the horns and moved in and started interacting with people like Lord Servant, Unspoken indirectly, and Trigger Happy as well. As for friends, we don't really have any, but we work where things make sense, and we like to shoot stuff. So
fantastic, Lord Servant.
Hey, so Forsaken Empire basically started with a bunch of close friends. A lot of the original core group was from Black Serpent Technologies, was in the corp in NC Dot. A lot of us weren't particularly interested in where the game was going. It was very blobby, very boring, and I mean, as you can see, they've moved to turn regions to kind of mirror what Goons are doing a little bit, and PvE doesn't particularly interest us. Even before the blackout, we wanted to the idea that my brother put to me was, rather than just quitting the game, why don't you just try doing something different, try doing something that everyone says is impossible. So we literally went as a group of 5-10 people. We're getting more and more, and we just went out to I think Scalding Pass. I'm sorry. And we literally just took Sov in Scalding Pass. I think we still own that system, Wogco. And we went out there and we're fighting against some French people, Toilet Paper, I think. Toilet Paper and some Russian group, which was, I don't know, I forget their name now. Q, quote, I think it was. And we basically, we're going to play the game our way, or, that's the last thing you can do before you quit the game, basically. And it was pretty good until they did what they do and they blued everybody for miles around, and it became a horrible time zone where we could fight them in U.S. time zone. They couldn't match us or outside of rather. Anyhow, so after that happened, we saw the Tribute and Vale thing and figured, hey, a lot of us are familiar with the area from being in NC Dot, so we came back up, and it's been pretty good so far. We're dedicated to #NoBlues. We work with Reverberation Project as a matter of necessity, on and off. They're good neighbors, and we don't want anybody. We hate the blobs. We're all about the small gangs, small kind of vibes there. So that's, I guess, where we're at, without rambling too much.
So what's going on in Tribute and Vale? Are they different from each other? Are they fairly similar? What's it like there? If someone were jumping in the ship to go roam in that area, what are they likely to see?
I would say the first, the first few systems, you're going to run into gate camps, but I think they're a little, it's depending on what time zone it's different alliances. Like in the mornings, it's usually Trigger Happy, and during U.S. time zone, it's usually Unspoken doing the gate camps and MO. But I think I can speak for both of us that we're not just looking for those cheap kills. We also are looking for the fights. So, if you bring a gang through MO, that you're going to be, you're going to have a fight on your hands rather than us just, running and cloaking up.
Well, it's worth saying, Free Tears, that our alliances have been actively engaged in fighting each other over structures at the moment.
Oh, that's
You killed an Athanor of mine the other day. We've had 2 fights over it, and you killed it. We didn't contest the final timer because I mistimed it, and it came out very late for my EUTZ crew. And we've got other ongoing timers as well. So kind of like inter-region fights, which is unheard of in this day and age in EVE, to be fair.
It's actually super heartwarming to hear like just the stories of how you guys are just like small to medium sized groups just doing your thing and owning really hard. It does. I mean, this is very much similar to tales of like some friends of mine that came back after Blackout happened. So, I did feel like I was maybe unfairly judging Blackout because all the people I spoke to and all the people I talked to were all having a good time from it. So it was kind of hard to see the negative side of it, but it's really nice to see that you guys are just like doing things, fighting each other, even fighting over structures, which is probably how it's meant to be. I'm hoping eventually Eve will get to the stage, or at least Tribute will get to the stage where I could just take a single battleship or like 2 battleships out there and not get horribly owned on the Organic Gate or something like that.
If someone's gonna, put a roam together and come to your area, what ship category do you recommend they bring for an increased chance of getting a nice fight?
Titans.
God damn it, Kendarr.
Tracking Titans.
I'm joking.
Feroxes with Plex in the cargo, please.
Yeah. Nice.
Serious stance are cruiser sized. You'll get a form up.
It's any, really. The serious answer is any. A lot of us all have a very range of doctrines, all sizes, and we're not none of these groups here so far, from what I have seen personally, are particularly cap heavy. So you won't get like 40 carriers in the face. What you'll get is a sub-cap fleet in the face.
Exception to that would be your dunked or whatever. I'm pretty sure they're just a bunch of snuff alts that just randomly took off and they like to drop their caps on you. So
yeah,
just putting that one out there if anyone wants to.
Most of Tribute, I don't think anybody likes dropping caps. We always are there for the small gang fights and the medium engagements. And if we're getting that in between us, it's great. But if we're getting it from the outside groups, we want them to come back. So we want to give them that good fight because it's just more content for us.
Yeah, I guess in a way, snuff guys keeps you guys honest from one side blobbing with caps more and less, because snuff are like right there, and if they do have quite a preponderance of capital ships. So
I think Init kind of takes that moniker as well in Tribute in terms of being the boogeyman, so they don't use caps. I think what was it? Was it Trigger Happy? And someone else lost a bunch of dreads the other day in Tribute, I believe.
Pando is always watching.
One thing I'd like to say is like a lot of this is possible because of the absence of the larger power blocks right now. Not that it's like terribly. I guess this would not be possible if there was a larger entity that was just like overlording the area, right?
Yeah, so you guys are able to do this just because there's been a vacuum of yeah.
And it's nice because it's aligned with the nullsec blackout. So not only do you have a power vacuum, but you also have a resurged interest from like veterans, right, and people that know how to play, work together, and create content. So it's kind of like this rare, and that's one of the reasons I came back, because I've been Bobson for 3 years, and a lot of my corporation we were just not playing at all. To take up, to run with this and see where it goes and have fun. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Do you think that? Go ahead. Sorry.
At least the biggest thing for us is that we have all these small groups, and like we said, it's balkanized right now. What we're at least Forsaken Empire is really important about is that we really don't want. If you notice a couple areas, people will move in and they start bluing up, and before you know it, you have this one overwhelming blob, and it just kind of forms up and pushes everybody else out. We're trying very hard not to do that. That's why Forsaken Empire doesn't want any permanent blues.
Yeah, no permanent blues. Need a target-rich environment to keep the idea alive.
Exactly, and that feels good for content. You don't have to roam, 5 jump bridges 3 regions away to get to something that's not blue.
Do you see this experiment, this situation that you've got going in Tribute and Vale, being something that could be duplicated in another part of the game, as long as it's not too close to any of the major blocks?
I think it could be, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay.
No, I was going to say I think it could be, and elaborate your point though.
I was just gonna say, as long as the blocks, kind of stay out of it, keeps at least a region, to the small groups. We have this good interlying, like inter-region fighting, and as long as none of the other groups start, bat phoning and getting to the suspicious cycle of bat phoning each other or other groups, then it becomes a great and healthy environment, and that can be replicated anywhere as long as people are, I guess, responsible enough to, fight on their own terms. And not call in the blobs, 200 men Ferox fleets for no reason.
So do you think maybe Aquarius might be a home for groups like you guys? Initiative recently pulled back some spot in Aquarius. Unfortunately, it's still really, really close to Delta, which you might not want to mess with.
I'm not sure going with that. I'm not sure. That puts them pretty much between Test and Goons. I honestly don't know. I haven't been in Aquarius in a long, long time, but I'd say it's a potential for it. But it depends how Test and Goons feel about it. If you have both Test and Goons, being bored of their nonstop spot rain, and all they do is they drop 40, 50 carriers all over the place, then it's not really going to help. And Aquarius is pretty intrinsically tied to Delve as far as jump ranges, and even literally part of Aquarius might as well be part of Delve. That's a lot of it's kind of an issue. Same with the relationship between Fountain and Delve. So I don't know how independent they can be down there, but I'd say there's definitely a chance for that.
There's also logistical considerations. Another part of the Tribute Vale is it's so close to Empire and Jita specifically. It's really easy just one, to supply your stuff, but also quickly set up in those.
Yeah, that's kind of like the best. We were talking last week about the Tribute in that area, and someone had mentioned that it's a really good space for it to be so vacant, right? Because you're right next to Jita for resupplies. You're right next to Lowsec for dabbling and people that want to do Lowsec solo PvP. And for basing out of safely, it's just this perfect little area, and I'm glad that it's been a perfect set of circumstances too. So it's like a Goldilocks zone within a Goldilocks zone to allow you guys to thrive there.
Yeah, it's really that rare, and it's literally a perfect storm. And I just want to highlight that because I don't think something like this has happened in a long time.
Yeah, definitely.
In terms of growth, you guys mentioned, a lot of you guys are filled with veteran players that are maybe not played for some time. Are you guys getting some older players that are kind of picking up what Eve's putting down, so to speak, and coming back? Are you still getting that trickle effect of people rejoining up, or is it just this is the size you are now, this is how it's going to be?
Well, I could speak for my corporation specifically, Repercussus, which has spent time in both Goons and NC Dot and one of the larger corps and razors way back when. I would say that we have kind of gotten most of the core group back together, something like 40 or so pilot people that we've kind of just said, hey, we are restarting this shit. Here's what's changed in Eve. Do you want in? Wow, that sounds great. I'm coming, right? And a lot of us are still trying to adjust to the Triglavian changes, the different metas. And there's a little bit of a trickle, but it's starting to taper off because we're kind of out of old connections, so to speak. We've kind of tapped our internal network that we kept together over the years, right? From there, we could look to expand if we felt like it. But at the same time, this is just like a giant reunion of good times and shooting shit, right? That's for our corporation. I can't speak.
Forsaken's been actually pretty similar. Like I mentioned, we joined, all of us, the initial group was from NC, so same kind of concept. We're not interested in playing a game that it's being played at that level, and we've gotten a couple trickles of people. For example, one person was in NC. When they left, actually, there was a couple structures that Goons hadn't raised to the ground that were still in Vale that we was able to bring over with him. One of those, I think, was a Tatara that was horribly mistimed, and we lost that. But similar kind of concept. It's just a lot of old friends. There's not much outside of that core group. Obviously, we're fine with similar people coming back, but I speak for myself. Most of the people that I knew that I played with years and years ago, maybe they come back, maybe they don't. But there's it's mostly just the people that we know. We don't want to get ridiculously huge. That's if all of a sudden we start recruiting like Horde or Brave or something, and you're throwing around 200-man fleets, your content, like we said, would dry up very, very, very quickly. So we don't want ridiculously. I think I can speak for Troy as well. Like we're more of a quality over quantity. We don't form huge numbers, but we wind jackals whelped I don't know how many 3 or 4 bill Lokis. So definitely a quality over quantity kind of thing.
Yeah, at the same time, as a smaller group, like I prefer that regime of fights that are like under 100, where you have enough of like a, so to speak, like the doctrines matter and how you apply them, and the skill of your leadership makes the difference. Whereas rather than just hitting F1 and blapping that guy over there and sort of thing, right? And at the same time, you don't want to like have those two, like getting where you can put 200 mans in fleet, but at the same time you still need to have enough people to be able to go out on grid with like 20 or 30 people and have that excellent fight, right? It's a balance, unfortunately.
Yeah, Feroxes and Drakes Online. I remember both of those, and before that it was 150k sniper megas and apox, and it was
Baltech.
That just well, not Baltex, even before doctrines. I think this was like Atlas kind of used to do that.
Back then.
The AHAX with PL and white noise rolling in, but there's always been a very lowest common denominator fleet, and over the course of EVE, and that's just never ever appealed to me. Flying stuff like that, I always like to fly something different or more experimental. So that's definitely where I think all the small groups are.
Would you describe Vale and Tribute right now as being in equilibrium at the moment? It's settled into a pattern. It's fairly stable as what it is, or are these places still in transition? We'll see how it settles out.
I'd say it's a combination of the two. We've got, like I said, it's a relatively good balance right now. If you look at Eastern Vale, there's a whole bunch of NC and PL space that's kind of still sitting out there. So there's definitely room for more groups to move in as we go from there. So right now it's somewhat balanced. I think there's nothing super crazy, and no one, at least on our side that I know of, is trying to blow up too many entities. I say that with an asterisk. I don't know about there's some weird stuff in Tribute, but yeah, like basically we're more small groups is good, and I think that there's definitely room for growth and room for the region to grow while still staying balanced.
Yeah, I can't really speak so much for Tribute. I believe Trigger on Spoken, you guys have more of a stable situation over there, as opposed to Vale, which is still has room for expansion and changing. But that's just my impression. So over here, while I'm looking over the border to Tribute from.
Yeah, I would agree with that. With Trigger Happy, they have their own pocket. Unspoken has their own pocket. Group Toxic just came in, and there's a couple blues being made, but at the same time, they're already talking about, or we and they are already talking about kind of getting away from that, just so we can just keep the content rolling. There's not really much space left in Tribute, because in the SH1 pocket you've got Centipede Caliphate, and then you've got Rogue Capel, but it definitely looks like there's room for more groups in Vale, and hopefully more do come in. Similarly,
yeah, we've seen like Scum pop up and Parabola. Scum's not particularly all that important that I can see, but I mean, maybe they'll change into something like that's worth I don't know, I've just had trouble trying to engage them. They always like kind of disengage and go away, but maybe that's just my 1 or 2 experiences with them. Parabola, I believe, is in a different time zone. No visual, I haven't really interacted much with, other than outside of with you, Lord Servant, and yeah.
Yeah, we've kind of just gone back and forth. I'm not sure some of the new groups moving in. We've had a bit of gone back and forth with no visual. We killed one of their Fortizars the other day. I think they're nominally aligned with Rote, but Rote's in Tribute, so there's definitely some kind of cross-region politicking going on there.
I can talk about no visual. Back, about a month ago, we were in Cache, and we met up with no visual there. And, they helped us. There was only a few of them, and they're starting to slowly grow. But mostly they just kind of hung on to us for the content. And when the cash stuff started, when we were fighting Iron Crown out there, when NC and moved in drone lands, and then Horde started showing up for a few timers, then Frat started showing up for a few timers because we were fighting, Iron Crown, which are affiliated with Frat. We decided it was time to buck out. And No Visual, they kind of followed us. They didn't want to be so close to us. They wanted to grow as their own entity, and so that's why they took space over there rather than in Tribute. So we have unblued them, but they're a good little group, just still growing, still getting their feet on the ground.
Gotcha. I mean, this is definitely the area to do it.
Now, you guys, sorry.
Are there other groups that you think we should have invited to the show today? You mentioned Road a couple times, and we actually did invite Garrick Shadowbane to the show. He is fly fishing in a mountain stream somewhere, and good for him. That's perfect. Any other groups though?
I'd say, Road. I'd probably say Senti, maybe.
Yeah, Senti. We've definitely fought them a few times.
I mean, I don't know if you're dunked as a group. I mean, obviously they're alts, but do they count as a group? And they basically can't P3.
I'm pretty sure there's just like 5 guys in their alts. That's that entire line. So I'm pretty sure.
Probably.
I think Carneros, you'll see some more groups moving in over time here. I'm aware of at least 1 or 2 that are looking to try and take some stuff. We'll see if they're successful, sort of thing. The landscape in Vale is going to change, and I know Bastion used to be in Vale, so it's kind of a place dear to your heart. But
when it comes to actually doing stuff in this space, are you guys like utilizing the space? Are you guys mining moons and NPCing? Like, obviously, like veterans coming back, they generally have a bunch of ISK laying around, but when that starts to dry up, as Bling Lokis die, as it were, are you guys like utilizing the space, or is that not so much a concern right now?
We have, at least for us, we have a real life friend of who joined us. Basically, he's a newer player, not a veteran, and I think he might be one of like 2 people that actually makes ISK and rats. At least I'm sure you know there's a veteran ISK goes a very, 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 very long way. Even when you're banned, 5 years back and lose half of it. So we're not really too concerned about making ISK in the space. I personally dabble in the abyssals for shits and giggles, but pardon my language again. But most of us, I think, make our ISK independently, or you have basically a couple very wealthy veterans at least doing bankrolling everything. We hand out a fair amount of stuff, which no one heard that.
I would say that's a similar situation in Echo. We definitely just like, okay, guys, we're going out here. We're going to hand you some ships because that's what the old bank from back in the day is allowing us to do, right? But if you go on the map, you'll see when you check out like NPC kills for 24 hours, it's not a lot of ratting going on in Vale.
Yeah.
So you guys get to get the good of the blackout without having to deal with the possible bad.
It's great. It's
excellent. But to follow up on the moon question, those are being utilized, at least for us. I'm aware of in certain groups they've outsourced it, so they don't have to deal with the actual deal, mining it and exporting it, and they just take a share of the profits instead, sort of thing.
Man, so you guys are dabbling in the rental scheme too. Jeez.
It's surprising. There's actually like even your Dunked has a renter corp. So we will camp them obviously, but it's a little ridiculous how many little tiny renters are around here.
The way Unspoken handles it is the ADMs, we actually had a really historical problem of keeping them up when we were in Ethereum Reach. Back when the stations were changing into faction Fortizars, we took the iHubs and the systems, but we were having to pay people a bill a week just to keep those ADMs up, just so we could get those faction Fortizars. Now that we have a pocket, it's a little bit easier. And I think most of the people who are ratting are doing it just for the ADMs, and they're probably just AFK, just like you do when you're at. But really, it's the moons that are the good money makers, and we're just still waiting for them to come out because they're kind of new, as in like new pools.
Yeah,
it takes a while.
Yeah, I guess the TLDR is you have no idea how many Blame Lokis we can whelp.
I don't think there's any ISK issues between any of our groups at the moment, but like you say, at least when does that run out, right?
That tells me there's a difference in opportunity here. Whether you're an old established returning group with wealth or you're a new group starting up who doesn't have wealth. So that is a challenge for game designers at CCP to think about going forward.
Yeah, Unspoken got really lucky a couple times in Ethereum Reach. We ended up doing a couple of the NPC Sodios and got two Komodos in a week, BPCs, and then we also had the Blood Raider Titan as well, about 2 months prior to that. So we got really lucky there, and we're still kind of rolling off that money. But as for a new group, I don't know. Good luck to them. Get some moons and tax it reasonably, and it's pretty good income. If anything, it's enough for SRP.
Especially when we're only SRPing less than 200 people.
Yeah, exactly.
Feeding Ferox fleets every day.
You can't bank on 2 Komodos and a Moloch, though.
Definitely not.
It's not a financial plan. That's luck. That's winning lotto, kind of. Elise is sitting there picturing 2 Komodos and a Moloch and deciding how to divide them up.
Yeah, pretty much. I'll just take it all and it'll be easy.
Big money, big money. Just go to Vegas and put it all on red.
Yeah, then you always win, right? It depends if the wheel has been going red or black before, right? If it's doing black, then you can bet on red. That's how stats works, right?
Exactly, yeah.
And I just had a question for Kendarr, if you're still around, which I know you are.
He's not.
He's not? Is that what he said?
I thought he had to take off.
Yeah, he left about 20 minutes ago.
No, I missed my Kendarr moment. Kendarr, as Carneros can attest, was a very prominent FC in the Imperium, and transitioning from the Imperium, where you have unlimited resources, unlimited pilots essentially to pull from, and going to where everything is finite. You can only have a certain amount of ships, a certain amount of people in certain ships. There are lots of challenges associated with that, and he, by all accounts, appears to be thriving in that situation. So it's really good to see names like that, and names like a lot of these guys who are on the show right now that were veterans at the very high level coming back, right? And that's, again, something I had said before. It's something that I've personally been seeing quite a bit of. But do you guys have any friends that are or know any people that are experiencing the opposite, right? So where they're getting fed up with how Blackout's running. They're saying, this is really annoying. We don't really like how the mechanics are going. We're changing our playstyle in a different way. Maybe joining you, or maybe moving to a different area of space, or maybe just kick it back for the summer and going fly fishing somewhere.
Personally, for me, pretty much all my friends quit half a decade ago, or are in wormhole space, or are flying with me now. So I don't really know any of those people who are into the big Oracle, Spot Brain, Mega Blob .online or whatever garbage it is these days.
Yeah, I think you're talking to the wrong community if you're looking for horror stories about why Blackout is bad. Or the wrong group of people here, personally. But that's
I got nothing bad to say about it.
I will point out that it is really hard to get the Blackout is bad people to come on a show like this. It is 50 times easier to get people who like it to come on the show. There's upside for you. You get to you get to enjoy the moment. There's no upside for someone whose lifestyle has been wrecked in the game now, and they're looking for what to do next.
And I fully believe that there's entire gameplay styles that have just been screwed over, or they just don't exist anymore. And I don't know how best to approach that. But my understanding from CCP is that it's been a net gain. But perhaps that's a misunderstanding on my part.
I mean, as far as lifestyle, play styles being wiped out, I mean, Troy, you've been playing for Elise, you've been playing forever. You understand all the playstyles that have been wiped out over the years by steady progression to Spawn Brain. I don't think that. I think that I think there should be both ends. Like, I always thought the old NC was good, like the Imperium was good. Like, there should be Spawn Brains in the game. Everyone wants to play the game; they can play the game too. But it should not come at the expense of everybody else who's interested in PvPing and doesn't want to multi-box 20 Workles or what. Like, there should be a balance back between the two. And I think that we've been tilted so far towards Spawn Brain Online for so many years that it's been harmful to the game. So I think that this is a bit of a rebalancing, and I think that there should be a bit of back and forth. I'm not saying you should wipe out that playstyle, but that playstyle should not dominate the game like it is right now. You see NC trying to mirror that playstyle in the drone regions, and that is the end game of. I mean, we're all small groups, we're enjoying ourselves, but we're under no illusions that if goons or PanFam or whoever tried to roll through with they can put 1,000 bodies in fleet with a full Titan fleet or 2 full Titan fleets or 3 full Titan fleets, whatever the hell the meta is these days, and that is that's unfortunate that the game's devolved to that.
So what's kind of like you guys' end game? Obviously, you aren't preparing for, or while you're in while you're thriving, no one wants to prepare for or Theorycraft what the end's gonna look like. But let's say like things start to go a little bit static in Tribute. What if how do you respond to that, or what plans do you have? Are you gonna start roaming wormholes? Are you gonna start looking over towards Declan and maybe giving Sword Dragon and the boys a poke? What plans do you have, if any? Or are you just kind of looking in the next week and not in the next 6 months?
At least for Forsaken, we'll deploy. Like I said, we were up even before the blackout. We were up in Scalding Pass trying small game Saw before blackout, and we had limited success there, but there was content. And then we, now we're up here in Vale trying to get content. If content dries up in Vale, maybe we'll look at Curious. Maybe that's we don't care about holding space and being there. Like I said, none of us really. The space is there for content. The space isn't there so we can run Workles or VNIs or Dommies or whatever.
I would say in terms of where people looking ahead, maybe max a month. It seems like this whole thing just kind of came out of nowhere, perfect storm of conditions. It's hard to see where it's going to go, right? For all we know, a nullsec block could decide, hey, I want that space because, like you said, it's logistically great, it's very attractive to hold, et cetera, right? So we could be facing perhaps there might be a situation in the future where maybe all our little groups want to fight off a larger entity because they want the space. That might be a scenario we might face in the future. That's the only one I can really truly think of, but the situation's so dynamic and we're all kind of just still in this honeymoon phase of oh my god, this is here, let's go do this thing, right? If that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, to your point, since you guys aren't actually using the space, I don't think anyone I don't see why anyone bigger would want to come in. Rather, they have no incentive to come in and push you guys out.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there's you guys would just leave, right? So that seems to be a pretty good extra dynamic you have working for you.
There's also the question of how.
Go ahead.
Oh, there's also the question of how, and I've heard rumors how this blackout thing is going to move forward, right? Because my understanding is that it's not permanent. It might change in the sense that maybe perhaps you put up your own structure. If you own the space, you might get local for your own guys, right? I hope it's permanent. I want it to be permanent, but again, it's the era of chaos, and CCP might be. I'm not a CCP developer. I don't know what they plan on doing.
What more chaos would you guys like to see? Let's just say you've got the devs ear for a little bit, or
right.
Someone important's here. What Spring Wings chaos would you put in there just for funsies, just to have more enjoyment for your group and groups like yourself? Right?
That's a tough one.
That's a good question, and I want to think about it.
Any chaos I would personally want would be player driven. Personally, I like that they're making things a little bit more difficult, but I think a lot of it comes down to balance, and I think that there should be. EVE is a game of diminishing returns, and we've gotten to a point where people expect that once you hit a threshold, the diminishing return should go away. People are getting that WoW thing where I'm a level 80, nothing below me should be able to touch me. And I think that's what we're getting to with the larger groups, where you have, right now, no one can touch Delph, no one can touch, CFC stuff, and
They're the level 80s, right?
exactly, and that's the problem. I think is that it's even at a local level with super caps. If you're at the level 80 in your area, no one can touch you, and I think that kind of needs to go away. Back in the day, there was, I don't want to get into this, but I think balancing of stuff like that should be more looked at. It should be diminishing returns, not you have the mass level of supers and facts and blob, and nothing can ever touch you, and you can't take any losses. That's the problem I have.
To your question, though, I would like to see if we're going back to the chaos theme, perhaps removing of, like, even temporarily, maybe even intermittently, like certain supports the game provides for player organizations. Does that make sense? Like easy access to intel through kill boards. I believe did they implement that delayed change? Has that happened?
Z Killboard did it by itself,
hasn't.
but the game hasn't, right? So that's kind of what we were talking about last week, where like just delaying the ESI endpoints a little bit, because when dot lands down, when Z kills down, space does feel way more spooky ghost.
Yeah, and one feeling that I personally have in this blackout is that I feel nullsec is a lot bigger than it has been in years. Like there's a lot more room to move around in and explore. I can hide fleets now, for example, if I'm reasonably confident that I'm not compromised on comms, those sorts of.
Yeah, for sure. And I do believe that Zkill went back to normal, right? I think they were just testing out that delay, having fun with it. I haven't actually looked.
Yeah, they did. They had an experiment. They saw the results and they turned it off. And now they've asked CCP to, look at implementing something more across the board. And they partly, I think, inspired by the fact that other people were now starting to make Z Killboard competitors that wouldn't delay. Anyway.
Yeah, it seemed like every alliance had like a little Z Killboard like bot that would just report kills in a channel that were coming in live. So
I am guilty of making one of those myself.
Yeah,
so.
there you go.
Yeah, that and worse is definitely the game's gone a little bit too far towards perfect intel.
Yeah, I want a value intelligence, right? I shouldn't be able to just like literally Google something. I should be able to work. I should have to work for it, and it should be something worth selling and holding.
I don't know. Googling the old NC jump bridge map was pretty cool back in the day.
Yeah, I mean, I remember all the pause passwords for all those groups. I can't remember the name of someone I met like 2 days ago, but if you ask me for a pause password for Mostly Harmless a decade ago, don't worry, guys, I got you.
Was that 420 or something? Was it? I think
it was O0K. It was their little call sign. The Imperium had 420 as their things.
Yes, 420.
I know AAA was like, I think AAA 2019 or 2009 or something. I forget what variant of that. Good times. That's actually something I kind of want to point out is that, we joke about all these really cool things back in the day, and knowing stuff like that had value. Nowadays, it's gotten so locked down with ACLs and stuff, like that doesn't matter anymore. Everything is kind of abstracted away behind a layer of game design. So emergent gameplay, like knowing the POS password to the jump bridges so you could use their POS as a safe spot for ganking stuff on the jump bridge, that is long dead and gone now.
Yeah, one of my favorite moments in the game, in this game, at least a few years back when POSes were a thing, was planning a spy in a wormhole corporation, and then getting their POS password, obviously, and then just organizing this large, sophisticated op to go into their space and then eject all their ships and just take them all, right? Because I had the POS password, so I could just bring in all the people in my corporation and just jack all their shit. And we have a video of what we did, but that was one of the most defining and favorite moments, and that just plays on the whole intelligence being something of value that you can obtain, and it's not there anymore.
Yeah, life was quite hell for wormholers for a while when they lived out of passes. People adapted by having personal passes, and it was a bit of a disaster. But Citadel's definitely made it so wormhole groups could kind of grow quite a bit and not have to be punished so much on the trust aspect, right? Because nullsecers and people in lowsec didn't get as punished with a breach of trust, I should say.
Yeah. I'd also say, is speaking of wormholes, one thing that's reminded me is back when I was in wormholes, there's actually a precedent for CCP and ESI data. For a while, when I was in wormholes back in 2012, 13, 14, whenever Disavowed was around, that's when I was. Basically, we used to do a lot of groups that people did seed ganks where they would seed other wormholes, and we could tell that by looking at the NPC kills in wormholes. And CCP specifically turned that off, which completely destroyed that way of life. You didn't know if a wormhole was AFK or not, because if it's a bear hole, they just log in and they run for like an hour and they log back off. They've changed all that PvE mechanics now, but that they definitely killed off that level of intel, and wormholers didn't lose their minds and are still around today. So I think that there's a lot of adapting around that, and turning stuff off like that for nullsec might be the way to go.
I'm just like reminiscing and finding my video from when we jacked that one corp. It's quite good.
Yeah, there actually has been quite a bit of reminiscing from my end. I remember we talk about people that have left over various game change decisions. I actually have a friend that quit the game when they changed the webs from being 90% to 60%. That was literally the breaking point for him. He was like, okay, well, that's it. I'm done. And I was like, no, they changed like other things, so that makes sense. They added grapplers, they did this. He's like, I don't care. Does my Megathron have a 90% web? No, I'm not resubbing. Goodbye. And that's his one issue that he like refuses to budge on. So yeah.
Man, that was actually, I think, a pretty good change. Nano hacks were around for, I think, a bit after that. Was Nano Nerf 2, I think, right?
That was like the third wave of nano nerfs, yeah.
Yeah. Because like the first one was when they removed the raws, like 15 meters a second plus on a nanofiber, just base, I think, and then they removed that because that killed battleships, and that's a good one.
Yeah, Eve players, as McLeod said, are quite stubborn when it comes to changes. But that's it's just that visceral feeling you get when part of your gameplay gets nerfed, right? When you have something taken away from you, it just sucks. And to Carneros' point earlier, it's so hard getting those people on when they're experiencing that guttural, here, give me this is no longer yours type feeling. So we have to kind of like get whispers of people who are not enjoying Blackout or are experiencing bad or changing their play style based on Blackout, or just all out leaving because they don't want to come out and get ridiculed and get called like a Care Bear. But
well, that's why I say it comes back to balance. I definitely think that those people should exist, but I don't think Blackout necessarily removes their style of gameplay. When I see a removal of gameplay, look at, you mentioned back in the day when DRF just kind of went from big to folded overnight. The front end was White Noise and Raiden up in, I think we were in not Penal, I think it was. And goons were invading, and we had we're putting 30 to 50 Titans on field with 100 dudes and alts and abatons, and that was our gameplay. And then overnight they're like, nope, your Titans don't work anymore. You have 100 Battens versus 800 Drakes. Good luck. And,
so you were shooting at me then, Lord, then.
Yeah, well, but that was, I think there's a whole, again, different discussion on balancing, but the fact that you had two distinct play styles, and it wasn't just, can you recruit more people and put them in Drakes, or now it's recruit more people, put them in Feroxes and Oracles. Like, I think that, that's yeah, I mean, that completely destroyed that style of play entirely. And I don't think Blackout completely destroys that style. Goons have adapted. They've been doing good with their fleets. Pandemic Horde have been doing, fleets and stuff like that. You can still be in a big block and still be relatively safe. It's just not quite as easy. And of course, bots have been completely screwed over by this.
Wait till you see the next monthly economic report.
That'll be interesting.
Yes, very. Can't wait.
Bottom regions will be gone.
It'll be shocking. It will be shocking. Whatever that spod thing online that you refer to, That's actually ended. You just don't know it yet.
We can only hope.
Anyway. But yeah, no, great stuff. I don't know if we can put that video in, but I will link it in Talking in Stations chat because it would be fun for people to watch after the show.
Yeah, if you want to watch old Eve, just Google Lord Servant Eve, plug for my own YouTube channel. I've got, I don't know if I have my Titan video on there or not, but it's a lot of really old stuff there as well.
That's the one from Troy where he talks about sneaking into the wormhole corp with the password, ejecting all the ships, stealing them, and running away.
The best part about that, and it's not in the video, but they would keep their caps. They would store their caps in the open because of the permissions at the time. So the night before that video happened, and it's the opening screenshot there on the video, and it's a screenshot of all of us with our paws just outside each one of their caps. And we snuck in the night before, and they had 6 capitals just chilling in the wormhole, and we took them all before we actually invaded the wormhole to take all their other ships. And then we fought them after that while they had no supplies, and we had chokepulled them with the wormhole. Anyway, it was just a great experience. So
yeah,
just teasing. Okay, we're starting to wrap up here, and so a couple things to tell you. A little housekeeping for a second. The midweek show that we do on Thursday nights, that one actually did occur this past week, but due to some network issues at the time, it was just recorded locally, and we're going to put the podcast out. So sorry about no live stream for that show. The show did happen, and you'll see it on podcast. Pick it up there if you didn't get it. Tomorrow we still have Exuki's what is it called? The Whole Story. That's his wormhole show on Monday nights.
Nice.
Love that. And then we'll, of course, be back next weekend. I don't know yet exactly what we're going to do about the fact that next week's Talking in Stations live stream conflicts with Aether Wars Test 2. So we'll figure that out. Stand by on that one. Also, I want to say thank you to our guests. Thank you to everyone who came in the live audience. Appreciate you guys. We have a little tradition here we started in recent weeks, which is instead of shout outs at the end, we go around the room and we tell an Eve tip, something to help other players. And if you don't mind, I'll start us off this week with a little tip. And you guys do some thinking because I'll go around the room and see who has one. If you don't, that's okay. You can pass. Here is a hint, a tip. Let's say you're in nullsec. You're sitting on a gate. You're watching. You're sitting somewhere and you're watching in blackout for hostiles to come by. Maybe you can see a gate from where you are. In the old days, if someone jumped in, you would drag their name out of local chat into your Intel channel, and you'd say, "Oh, okay, here's what jumped into system." But now it's too fast. You can't grab them because they're jumping in and they're cloaking up, or they're warping off, or burning back to the gate. What do you do now? Here's what you do. On your overview, when they jump in, just quickly reach over and click once to select them in your overview. Now look at your selected item window, and you will see 2 little icons, one for their ship and one for their pilot. Now you can drag those over into your Intel channel along with dragging the system name to report them. A lot of people don't think of that. They try to drag out of the overview. You can't do that. But you can drag out of the selected item window. Special thanks to CCP Karkur for telling me about that because I didn't know.
Yeah, that is pretty nifty, actually.
Thank you.
I guess my tip is for people who have gotten their excavators bombed or are living their blackout lives and they're getting their drones bombed all the time. You can actually get a rig for that. The drone durability enhancer can increase the life of an excavator to the point where you can maybe survive having your drones bombed by 2 squads of bombers. It'll reduce your yield, but you'll still be able to use them.
All right, I've
But
got
the
one.
dink ticks.
So left of your capacitor on the little menu button, so this is more for the new players, I think. Turn on your tactical overlay, leave it on, learn what, how to use it, get comfortable with it, and then start clicking on other people's ships and then zooming in on yours, or you can even look on theirs, and you start seeing some arrows, like vector arrows, and it'll tell you, they'll start blinking, start flashing red if they're approaching you too quickly, and it really helps with, getting under somebody's guns or trying to match your transversal with theirs, and so you can track better. And if if it starts flashing red at you and you don't want to get scrammed, you probably want to turn around or shoot that person. So, yeah.
Very nice. Troy, do you got one?
Yeah, I got one. All right, you guys, all your tips have been technical or about gameplay and stuff like that. And those are great. For me, my tip to any new player or even veterans is always remember this game is about the people, the relationships you build with the people, the interactions you have with the people, the memories you create with those people. Everything is driven by the people. The reason you're here, the reason you're watching this, it's because of the people. And that's the fundamental building block of this game, and always cherish it.
I can definitely agree with that.
Nice.
I guess I got 2 tips because they're both bad. So I'd say my first one comes actually from my brother, Win Jackal. The other CEO, he says, don't be afraid to try new things. And I can definitely say this from personal experience. I've flown a lot of very wacky and zany things, from the 50 MNT 3Ds to the Dunk Phoenix to all sorts of shield tanked Archon triage back in the day. You never know what you'll find. You'll never know what the new meta can be. Definitely go out there, try new things. And that's how the game is prevented from being stale. Rather than going and retracing the constant stuff that's tried and true, try something new. If you lose a little bit, it's not a big deal, because it's all pixels in the end. And the second thing is, I really, really, really dislike those stupid bait sino beacons that you see all over the place, like the ones in JGAMP NP3EN, Unspoken. Not Unspoken, I'm sorry. You're dumped. Can't even get it right. And when you're jumping your jump freighter or whatever it is around, right-click the person's name in fleet and jump to them. Don't get lazy and click your capacitor, because they name them all sorts of stupid things like Fleet Sino and whatever. You know who you're jumping to. Jump to the person. Don't jump to the random thing in your right-click menu. So I guess I'll go with that. Oh, I'm sorry, JGAMP is rote Capel, apparently. Wrong people called out.
Oh, can't
Appreciate
defend
that.
themselves. They better come next time.
Ooh.
All right, thank you very much for coming. Appreciate all of you. Thank you, guests and team and crew, and McLeod, our producer. And ladies and gentlemen, come join us again next week and hang out in our Discord. Talk to our people.
Hey, thank you very much for having us.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity and the invite.
Yeah, it's been fun.